Welcome to the Macdownunder Podcast for all Australian Apple computer enthusiasts and collectors. So welcome to episode 7 of the Macdownunder Podcast. I'm Justin, and thanks to all of you who have tuned in so far and left comments. Don't forget to comment below to help us improve and let us know what you'd like us to talk about in future episodes. Special thanks this week to all those who came to see me at the Vintage Computer Festival Down Under up in Canberra over the weekend. It was great to chat to so many vintage computer enthusiasts and lots of Apple enthusiasts as well. Today we're going to do a bit of a wrap-up of the VCF event and some insights into what it's like to be an exhibitor from my point of view. We'll also cover recent for sale ads and some coming events. So now to introduce my regular co-host Matthew. How are you? How was your weekend?
G'day JD, g'day everybody. I've had a great weekend here, although I would have loved to have been up at VCF with you and catching everyone that was up there. But down here at the museum over the last week, it's been great. I've managed to score a few printers yesterday, which was great. A few laser writers, including one that I had as my childhood printer, a personal laser writer. So I was rapt about that. I got to some repairs, repaired 3 Mac Classic logic boards and recapped those, as well as an LC power supply and an analog board from Mac Classic. So I spent a bit of time down here doing some repairs in the Mac Museum workshop, which was great. So yeah, all in all, it's been a productive week here.
Sounds very busy. So apart from the museum, I gather you've exhibited your collection elsewhere?
Yeah, look, parts of the collection have been exhibited at the local technology markets, vintage computer collectors group that's been put together and attend some of the markets that we've mentioned in our upcoming events. So I've been there once, which was great. I will hopefully get back there again very soon. They're a lot of fun. I've actually, no spoilers, but I've got a couple of future events that I've been asked to exhibit at as well. So I won't talk about those just yet, but more info to come in the weeks ahead. But it's good fun. So I've really enjoyed when I've been able to get to these things and meet new people and get the stuff available for people to look at. But JD, I am so interested to hear how your weekend has been and how you got on at VCF. So.
Yeah, oh look, I had a great time. I'm a first-time exhibitor, so I'm really grateful to the organisers, both the Canberra Vintage Computer Enthusiast Group and the Australian Vintage Computer Museum Society who organised it. They did a great job, and they were so welcoming, I've got to say, for an outsider who hasn't been to these events before. Coming from another state, you don't quite know what to expect, and everyone was so welcoming and helpful. It was fantastic. And again, the number of people who came through the door, had a look at the exhibit. Again, as a first exhibitor, they were very complimentary, which was just lovely to hear because you don't know, what people expect, or I certainly didn't. And lots of fantastic chats and catch up, and of course you get to see some computers from other manufacturers that are historical as well, and it was great to have a look at the other exhibits when there was time to do that. And there were talks as well. I didn't manage to get to those because I needed to manage the stand and also get back to look after some family things, but plenty to do, so highly recommend it to anyone to go to next year's event. And they're already talking about what to do, what to call it, etc. Even now, so it was fantastic.
Oh, that's great. So, I think you'd mentioned it at some point, maybe in a previous episode, as we'd been sort of running up to it. It was free for people to attend, to go and walk through. Tell me though, for my interest in hopefully getting there next year, what do you have to do to become an exhibitor?
Yeah, well, I've actually put together a bit of a presentation about this, so it's quite a weekend. I thought it was worth documenting. So yes, you need to register as an exhibitor, and there's an online site for that. Here's a snapshot of it. So it's free to register, but for insurance purposes, you need to join the Australian Computer Museum Society, which I think is a $60 donation. So I did that. So I'm a member of them as well now. So that was easy. The tricky bit was the information, and I gather there was information that was emailed out pretty close to the date. But what I'd recommend if you're doing one of these is to reach out to the exhibitors. Most of them would have a chat group going somewhere on email or messenger or somewhere, and certainly the Canberra Vintage Computer Enthusiast did, and friend of the show and friend of the museum, Declan, was already on that and exhibiting, and he reached out and got me added to it, and that was really helpful because you could hear what's going on, and ask questions and all those sorts of things beforehand. So that was a big tip for me from Declan. And then when you're registering, you have to work out how many tables you need, and again, it's pretty difficult. In this particular case, we're using the Bunnings style trestle tables. So they're about almost 2 meters by 1.5 meters, something like that. So I had to guesstimate how big my display was going to be because I hadn't really thought about what I was going to take at that point. So I ordered 2. Now, it turns out at events like this, tables are a bit of a premium. So note for me for next time is to bring my own tables, and there was certainly lots of chatter about that beforehand. But I thought coming from Melbourne, but I probably could have put them on the roof racks, so I'll probably do that next time just to make sure I can help out. And so there were 40 tables at this year's event, so it was a huge display.
Wow.
For Australia and certainly in the Canberra area. And of course, you need to arrange accommodation for 1 or 2 nights. In my case, I drove up the night before, stayed one night, and then disappeared as soon as the public expo was over so I could get home. Again, great group to work with. They were really supportive.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. And as I understand at this time of year, it would have been pretty chilly in Canberra. So sleeping in the car certainly not desirable. Make sure you arrange that accommodation. Yes, yeah,
absolutely. And there were several to choose from that were nearby the event, so yeah, easy to do.
Yeah, very good. Well, having reserved the tables, that's a fair bit of real estate. Then you had the tough decision to decide what to take.
Well, you've probably already been through this, having exhibited already. This was sort of new for me. So, do you take your favourite stuff? That was certainly an option because, you can talk to it. And I was certainly asked a few times, what's your favourite out of the exhibition? And that was that was such a hard question. Anyway, or you can take rare stuff. Now, interestingly, I actually took a Newton prototype, which is rare, but no one was really interested in that versus there's a Newton there. So I probably can reconsider doing that sort of thing again because it's a lot of effort to do that and a little bit of risk. Maybe your current infatuations. So I'm certainly infatuated with Melissa, but certainly in the Apple IIs and mice and things at the moment. But I don't think everyone wants to see 37 varieties of Apple mouse. That wouldn't be all that interesting for most people. So
I would, yeah.
Yeah, well, me too. Not sure too many others would have been, and it wouldn't have been all that engaging, I suspect. But anyway, maybe next time. Then there was the issue about what can I actually fit in the car, because I was driving all this up, let alone if you're flying and you're paying for it to get there. So the practicalities of what can you fit, and I wasn't entirely sure how much I could fit in the end because I wanted to make sure I packed it well and it survived the trip up and back, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And then, on the display, what can I supervise? So again, if you had 37 different varieties of mice or every iPod or whatever, they're all small and really hard to sort of supervise when people are playing with them and whatever. So that was a bit of a consideration as well. So a big machine is easier to supervise than lots of little things, I think. So that was part of my thinking. And then I was having a chat to one of the other exhibitors, I think it was, up there about, do you do the first of each range of computer product, in my case Apple, or the last? Because sometimes you think the last is going to be the biggest and the best. And then I actually sort of challenged that a little bit and said, well, actually, some people would argue that the Quadra 840, for example, is the best Quadra, but it wasn't the last Quadra. but certainly the fastest and had AV and so forth. So is it the best of each range that you take along? What do you do? I ended up opting for the first. So I had an example, or I had the Apple I replica. Can't afford a real Apple I. We talked about that last week. An early Apple II, certainly not the first, but a very early Apple II. I took the Apple III Plus. Going back to rarities, people didn't even know. A lot of people actually commented that they didn't even know there was an Apple III. So the fact that I had a 3 Plus really didn't mean much to them. So again, the rarity thing maybe isn't necessarily a big thing to look at. I took the Lisa One, a Mac 128K from an early series, Mac Portable, the PowerBook, and Newton and iPod and iPhone. In fact, I'll show those in a minute. And fortunately, when it came to packing, I could actually get them all in my car, so that worked out all right.
Yeah, look, there's some really cool items you mentioned there, and I can absolutely relate to the question that I regularly revisit about what to exhibit. Attending an exhibition of some type like you did, or down here at the museum. So I can probably maybe talk about that in a future episode. But yeah, just look on the point of packing and logistics. We talked about that a few episodes ago, JD. How'd you go getting it all up there safely? I hope.
Yeah, well, I did follow the advice as best we could. So here's a photo of my living room with the stuff that I bought for packing. So I tried to adhere to all of the tips that we discussed in our shipping episode. And now I know how much that costs, and we'll talk about the costs later, I suspect. But I needed something to fit the Lisa in, and I needed to fit in the Apple III. So they were really the dimensions that I was looking for. And so I ended up getting these large tubs. They're 150 litre tubs. And I bought 5 of them. I only ended up needing 4, fortunately. But I just thought, while I'm out at the store getting them, I don't want to have to run backwards and forwards to get extras. So I bought 5. And as you'll see, I think later on somewhere, the Lisa fits with the keyboard, but you wouldn't want to fit much else in there. So that worked all right. The foam padding, you can see in the plastic roll on the left there. So I bought out one of the Clark stores in their foam padding. Now, here's the trick. I needed 80 centimetres by 8 metres. Now, if we followed the rules that we talked about in shipping and used, 2 to 3 inches of foam, that was going to be over $1,000 of foam. So I had to wind back my expectations a fraction, and so I've got the 1 inch foam, and with the sort of textured bottled finish. That still came to a fair bit of money, as we'll show later. But I could justify it given what I was trying to protect, and I knew that it was going to be in my car, so it wasn't like it was with a courier that getting bounced around and thrown around and so forth. The other huge advantage of having these tubs, I don't know if you've ever tried to carry a Lisa, there's no grab handles on it like the Mac Portable, so you're holding the feet and sort of hoping that you don't damage anything. So actually having the Lisa inside a container with like a wraparound handle that you could take from any angle was really helpful and made it so easy to move it, I've got to say. It's a hard beast to move by itself, I think, well, particularly when you realise, what it's worth and so forth. So the tubs are really useful. Lots of foam. It's not in the picture there, but I've been keeping, it's not foam, bubble wrap. I've been keeping bubble wrap for probably a couple of years now. So the fill for me was lots of bubble wrap. The other things you can see there, I bought some display cases. So the one at the back, which has got a timber look, my son had made some years ago. So my Apple I replica went in that. And the other 2 came from IKEA and were just perfect for the handheld devices with some acrylic sheets so that, they're a display case. So that worked out really well for me. So what else did I get? I also got padlocks to secure the containers so that, if I had to leave them alone somewhere, there was at least a bit of a disincentive to open them up and see what's inside. These containers were so large. Whilst I've got a trolley at home to move my computers around, it was nowhere near big enough. So I had to lash out and buy a new trolley, a 300 kilogram rated trolley. So you could actually carry at least 2 of these containers quite happily on that with the straps that I've got shown there in the picture. So I've got some pictures later, but the containers were about 30 kilos fully loaded. So technically a 2-person lift. But if you're willing to take the risk, and I was, 1-person lift is possible, but you do need to look after yourself and protect yourself. But if you've got someone to help you, that worked out all right.
Yeah, gosh. I think, you mentioned that obviously you've packed all this stuff knowing that you're the driver of this vehicle that's taking them up there. So I think that's, that's comforting on its own to know that you're not in the hands of a courier that's trying to get there as quick as possible. So that would have been some relief, I'm sure, JD. I'm very interested in the security side of things here. You've mentioned the padlocks already for the tubs. What other measures did you take? Because there's some really valuable stuff that you've mentioned. What measures did you take to make sure it all came back?
Yeah, it was interesting in the festival. They had a security briefing for the exhibitors just before doors opened, and they made mention there about security of the devices and looking out for each other's machines and so forth, because everything there was expensive to someone. People may not necessarily appreciate the value of other machines that they don't collect, but the society certainly did, and so they did mention it in the first briefing. And in fact, in the pre-arrival instructions, they talked about bringing food and drink. I'd suggest a chair, although in this case it was a school, so there were chairs there, but I did bring a camp chair just in case, so that you don't need to leave the exhibit during open hours, and plan your toilet breaks and all that sort of stuff so that you can maximise your time on the stand. And I was really lucky. Declan, who I mentioned before, friend of the show and friend of the museum, set up right next to me, so that was great to have a friend that I knew next door, and also meant that we could look out for each other. And in fact, because it was an Apple II exhibit with some functioning Apple IIs, mine were all static this time, we were sort of suggesting people go and see each other's exhibits as well, so that worked out well. But it did mean that there were 2 of us looking out for all of the items that were there. But I was a bit anxious about security, so I went out and purchased some motion sensors before I went. Searched a bit to find these, but they're easy to find now online, and I'll put the links in the description for the video.
Did you buy the ones that were specifically look like iPod shuffles?
Yes, that was just a bonus, because I wanted something small, and good pickup. The first generation iPod shuffle, they certainly do. They make a lot more noise, I've got to tell you. So they're a 90 decibel siren when they go off, and I heard it a few times. I mean, I tested them all before I went. But what I did is, these come with double-sided tape. Now, I didn't do that because I didn't want to peel off labels and things on the computers. So I put a fair bit of blue tack on the back of each and attach them to each of the major machines. And so the intention being, if they got lifted or tilted, that they would go off. And certainly they worked a treat. So I tested them all before I went, so I knew sort of what their tolerances were like. And one, in fact, fell off a machine and went off. So that's the only false positive that I had. So that was just a bit more blue tack. And a few times I forgot and went to lift up a machine to show someone the back of it. And of course it went off. It did exactly what it was designed to do. No one complained, which I was a bit surprised about. I was pretty quick to turn it off. But then one gentleman put his hand, did a fairly big slap on the top of one of the Macs. And that set it off as well. So actually, mission accomplished. I think it did the job really well. And certainly for a brand new first exhibitor in a different state with a group of people that I hadn't really met other than Declan before, just gave me that confidence that I was able to supervise a fairly big exhibit and still be able to chat to people and not have to be a hawk all the time. So that worked pretty well for me on the day. Some other things I did, that using the display cases was helpful for the handheld devices, so kept them all together. And I actually had, I I don't know whether people actually had a look behind the display cases. I had one of these actually blue tacked to both cases so that if either of them moved, just saved on the number of alarms that I needed to have. And the other thing I was worried about, the Lisa mice are quite expensive. And again, to someone that's got shady motives, not that there's a lot of people around that, but it just takes one. Everyone was wonderful, I've got to say, though. But what I did do is coiled the mice inside the keyboard cables and then secured, obviously, both of them to the computer. And so it was pretty, if you're going to move something, it moved everything and it was pretty obvious. So that was just a little trick that I thought about and worked well and didn't inhibit the exhibit. And in fact, even if they were functioning, I think you still could have used them quite well just with that little addition. So that was another little trick that I used.
Very good. I like that one. I think, just those little things which might not take away from the presentation of the computers, but help just to put your mind at ease, and make it a little more difficult if that one person was to come along. So, speaking of presentation,
and the organisers mentioned it too. So it wasn't that I was unique. Clearly everyone was thinking about it too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, good one. Speaking of presentation, any other sort of bits and pieces that you had to sort of spruce up the display?
Yeah, so in the chat, I'd already thought about taking tablecloths because I think I learnt that off you, Matt, from discussions about your other exhibits and the museum itself too. So I was already thinking of that, and the organisers had suggested that everyone buy black tablecloths. There's some fairly cheap ones available around the place. I actually wanted to use white, so I bought both. But I ended up using white and loaned out the black ones to some other people. So that was the first piece. I made some signage, and you can see I did two versions of the sign. So one was laminated to the back of the other, because I certainly wanted to promote, the podcast and my website and what we're doing here. And I wanted to have people engaged in the exhibit as well. But I was concerned about people being a bit touchy. So one side said, please don't touch, but please feel free to ask questions. And then the other side was just, feel free to have a look. As it turns out, I didn't need to use the please don't touch signs. Everyone was very respectful, lots of questions and very engaging. So that worked out well. But again, just gave me a bit of confidence that if I needed a don't touch, it would still look professional and well thought out and so forth. As a lot of people do, and certainly your museum was a great inspiration for this, Matt. I had little table stands for each of the pieces to explain a little bit about it. Not a lot, but the year that it was introduced, the speed and the type of processor, which was kind of interesting because of the sequence of computers I had, I thought, to talk about how things had progressed. The amount of memory was also, a bit of a progression piece as well, and then a QR code into our website and the podcast. And I made up some business cards too, so why not? And in fact, I made up 50, and most of them went, which was fantastic. So I'm looking forward to people subscribing to the podcast. So welcome if you're new viewers, and thanks to our regular viewers for coming back. But also a link to my website where there's photos of the collection and links to the podcast and so forth. And I thought just one other thing I'd do, this might be a bit hard to read on screen, but it is actually available on the website if you want to have a look. I put together a 20 questions about the exhibit, because I've seen this at other shows where you're trying to engage families, particularly if you've got younger kids in the family that might otherwise be disinterested. So I had some questions specific to the display. So I didn't have any hidden sort of creatures or anything like that, but I did have things like my the Apple One keyboard that I've made. When I was finishing it off, one of the numbers fell off, so I thought, it's a bit of a treasure hunt to find which key is missing a number. And then all the other questions are relevant to the display. So what colour is the PowerBook? So, dark grey. And which device is green? The Newton, and so forth. So in the end, people were so engaged, I didn't really need them. But I thought if people didn't want to get engaged, it was a good way. Here's 20 questions about the exhibit. See if you can find these things. But I'll probably do it next time if I go again. I'm sure I will. But fortunately, it wasn't really needed because people were so interested in what we had on site.
This next question, packing.
Packing, yes. So these are the 4 tubs. well, not exactly as they were packed, because you can see I peeled things back a little bit just so you can see what's in there. But that's the entire exhibit, pretty much in the 4 tubs. And I just used the display cases to store the the business cards and tablecloths and those sorts of things. So you can see the Lisa there, second on the left, just fits in from a width and height point of view. So that was why I bought those tubs. My wife was, they were enormous. You're never going to be able to lift them, but they were a necessary evil. And you can see the Apple III in there with its monitor on the front there. Because the Apple III is fairly low profile, I was able to put some of the handhelds in, wrapped up in bubble wrap and things. And then the 2 old monitors plus the Mac 512 managed to fit on the right there. So again, a bit of bubble wrap between them to make sure they didn't scratch each other, and then foam right around them so that they didn't get knocked around. So 30 kilos was the heaviest one, which in fact was the Apple III, surprisingly enough. I thought the Lisa might be it, but and again, the grab handles made it so much easier to be able to move these around and stack them, and again, having the trolley as well, and the tie-down straps just made it so easy.
That's good. I think that tip that you mentioned there, just about not having plastic on plastic rubbing when you're transporting things, keep that one in mind, whether you're traveling to Canberra for VCF or moving something just locally. But I think that's a really important tip there, JD.
Yeah. Now, interestingly, the other thing I did is I had to clean, obviously, because you want everything to show off at their best. So just as I was packing things, I was doing a bit of a clean. So there's a few things that I brought down to the museum, and they've been cleaned, fairly recently. But the Apple III needed a bit of a tidy up, and I noticed there were some peripheral cards in it, and I thought I better have a look at what they are so that when people ask, I can tell them. And the things you find along the way. So this card was in the Apple III Plus, and it's an Apple III Uno Duo intelligent controller. Now, when you first look at it, you think, oh, well, I didn't know the Apple III used the Duo disc. That's interesting. This isn't the 5.25-inch Apple II Duo disc. This is the Unifile and Duo File card. So they're the Twiggy drives off the original Apple Lisa that were being designed to be released as a high-density drive for other products. So this is actually a prototype card for those devices. And as it turns out, one of the members at the VCF that I went to has the drive. So I've got the card, he's got the drive. One day we'll meet up and give it a whirl.
Oh, very cool. That's a great discovery.
and then cleaning the portable, well, not so much cleaning it because it was in its case, but going through the case to work out what can I take out to make life a bit easier and lighter, I discovered that I had a Mac Portable modem still in the shrink wrap. And I also had a aftermarket third-party memory card for the portable, which is a 5 megabyte version, which I'd never heard of. And clearly I had because I'd bought it at some point in the past. So it's just amazing how many things you rediscover in your collection. So that might be a topic for a future episode, is rediscovering collections, because I certainly have in the last couple of days.
That's cool. I love the artwork on those user guides there as well. That's great.
Yeah, very stylistic. They must have spent a fortune on marketing the portable.
Beautiful.
So yeah, the tubs that I showed earlier just fitted in the back of my SUV. So I was fortunate. I had to take out the cargo barrier and had to lay down the seats and so forth, but I did manage to fit everything in the car almost as if I'd planned it that way, and I actually hadn't measured the car to make sure it fits. Wow. So that was serendipitous, and you can see the trolley there fits in nicely. And then I put some towels on it just to make sure that it didn't scratch up the car and so forth as well. So it all fitted in, and I even had a spare seat for you, Matt, if you wanted to come, but maybe next time.
Yes. I had FOMO, so I'm as I said, already booked in for next year. Well, mentally anyway.
Very good.
That's I think the scale of those tubs. I didn't sort of grasp that until you actually see the Lisa and the Apple III in there. So and now seeing them in the back of the in the SUV there. They're large. So that's great.
And you might think that it's a bit of overkill. And when I've brought machines down to the museum in the past, they've just been in the back of the car with some towels wrapped around them. And for a 20-minute trip to and from, and you can control your speed and you don't have to worry too much. I'm pretty comfortable doing that. But I just thought, this is a 7-hour trip and then a 7-hour trip back, and you don't know where you're going, and you need them to be secure. You don't know where you're going to have to leave them. I just thought it was worth the extra effort, and now I'm prepared for the next exhibit. So, looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, well, pretty full car. Tell us a bit about the trip.
So, I left early on the Friday morning. The bump-in was that afternoon. Stopped in to refuel the car. And some supplies. People that know me know I like my iced coffee. This was a 4 iced coffee bottle trip, up and back and on the day. I had some apples and other things in the car as well. So the fuel gave me 848 Ks. I'm in a hybrid, thank goodness. So according to my trusty Google Maps here, it was a 660K trip. So I managed to do it in less than a tank. So that was fantastic. And you can see 660 Ks from where I was. So I was leaving from the eastern suburbs, and interestingly, Google decided to send me via Kinglake. Now, I don't know if you've driven the Kinglake Road, but I thought I'd better get out and take a photo because no one would believe what I was driving through to get to Canberra. So there's an example of the road that I was driving down. So I think Google was laughing at me that day.
Yeah, more fit for Steve Jobs' SL Mercedes Benz that he'd park in the car park to enjoy that drive, not a SUV loaded up with valuable vintage computers.
Yeah, look, I've been a professional driver in my life, so the drive itself doesn't worry me. But yes, the precious cargo in the back would. But again, the way that I'd packed, and I was very confident in what I was packing, and I didn't hear a rattle or a bang or anything, so everything was really secure, and that made me feel really confident. And of course, you've still got to do the normal things. You've got to drive at the speed limit and be careful around corners and take 2-hour rest breaks and all those things, which I did. But having things as well packed as they were just gave me that added confidence that they'd get this and survive and obviously get back as well. So I got there just on bump-in time, and so that's Downunder College where the exhibit was for this year. And you can see there the 2 tubs on the trolley. You could probably push it and put a third one on. I didn't want to go quite that far, but you can see it was pretty straight, run straight in, little bit of a ramp, and then in the doors. So it was pretty easy to push in. I didn't even need the straps in the end to hold them down. It was such a flat run. So bumped in most of the exhibition on the Friday night, and then did the touch-ups the next day.
Fantastic. I'm loving the photos so far, JD. I'm going to assume you've got some of the exhibits and the exhibition all set up.
Well, I've got one of mine. I did take photos of the other exhibits, and if people are interested, you can reach out, and I'm happy to send them to you. I think some of them are online from other providers as well. So there I am in my newly minted shirt that I'm wearing today as well. And you can see all the machines there. Got a bit of a behind the scenes photo there as well. So this was underneath the tablecloth. So I had my lunch already packed. You can see there, and my iced coffees and a couple of mint slices, like my mint slices. But also you can see the motion sensors there attached to each of the devices as well. And apart from the one that fell off the Lisa, they were all quite secure with the Blue Tack, did pretty well. And as I mentioned, went off when they needed to, when things were moved by me, and the big slap on the Mac 128K certainly set it off as well. So they worked a treat, and apart from my minor mistakes, not a huge amount of annoyance. Only the one time it really fell off.
Wow, looks great.
Now, I've also got a video that we can play. This one's actually online. People might have seen it already, but I might just play it because it does give you an idea of the display and each of the items.
Wonderful.
Hi, it's Justin here at VCF Canberra. Just walking through my exhibition before it opens today. So we have the Apple I replica, we have the original Apple II, an Apple III Plus, the Lisa 1, the Macintosh 128K, the Mac Portable, the PowerBook 100, two message pads, one original Newton prototype and the message pad original, and then we have the original iPod and the iPhone 2G with its Bluetooth headset. Hopefully people will enjoy it. See you soon. So there you go, and I forgot to mention, sorry about the background noise, but it was whilst everybody was setting up, so I couldn't interrupt everybody just for my own exhibit.
Looks superb. That's great, JD. I'm thoroughly impressed by that. It looks wonderful, and man, what a great selection of machines as well. That's top notch.
Yeah, and so that day, got everything tidied and set up, as you can see there, everything laid out. The organisers had a briefing, as I mentioned, just before door opening, so that was really helpful to hear what they had to say and the instructions for the day and emergency briefings and toilets and all those sorts of things. We had hundreds come through the door, and were all really engaging and asking lots of questions, which was brilliant. Interestingly, a lot of people said that they remember the Apple II from school, and they remembered the Macintosh, or at least the compact Mac, from uni or work. Quite a few people knew about the Lisa, but had never seen one in person, so that was great for them. And quite a few people said they never knew the Apple III existed, which was a real surprise for me, because even in 1980, when I bought my Apple II, I knew about the Apple III and wanted one back then, so I've known about it for a long time. And as I said, lots of people were really nice with their compliments, and I really appreciated the people coming up and having a chat, particularly because it was my first exhibition and you don't know what to expect. And as I said, everyone was so friendly and welcoming. So it was just fantastic. I was buzzing. In fact, I chatted to you on the way back. I was buzzing all the way home. So get home, pack it all up, and so there you go. There's my my exhibit. Equipment all ready for next time, and can't wait for it. I think I've got one more photo. So that's a photo of the exhibition during one of the busier periods. So you can see there's 40 tables, and right in the middle, sort of towards the background, you might be able to see me in my white shirt, and the exhibit there with Declan also in a sort of grey shirt. So we had plenty of people coming through and asking lots of questions. It was just brilliant.
That's wonderful. That looks great. Great to see so much activity there, and all the other exhibitors as well with their cool stuff there. I love it. That's great.
So I thought I'd just jot down the costs of all the stuff that I had to buy to make all of this work the way I did it. Now, of course, I did probably go a little bit overboard with the cases and foam and so forth, but it puts me in a good place for the next exhibition. But it did come to around $1,500 total. And there were other bits and pieces that I just had on hand as well. So if I had to buy them, probably would have been a little bit more. So the way I did it wasn't the cheapest way you could do this. But if you want to go to the trouble, protect your exhibits and make sure that they come home safely and intact, and be prepared for the next one, you might need to invest just a little bit of money in planning. But it worked well for me, and really happy with the outcome.
That's great. Insightful as well. Thanks for sharing that, JD.
Yeah, no worries. So, really enjoyed the event, and again, special thanks to the Canberra Vintage Computer Enthusiasts who actually hosted the event, the Australian Computer Museum Society who were supporting it, and Declan, our friend, who was really helpful, really supportive all the way through. And great. It was great to have him on the next exhibit with me, so we could look out for each other as well.
What stands out, and you've said it a couple of times here, JD, is just the welcoming environment that these exhibitions are, and that's what I've found with the community. The vintage computing community generally is very welcoming, happy to help, looking out for each other, which is just fantastic, and it makes these events enjoyable. Takes away that worry about stuff, the security of your very valuable stuff as well, for the most part as well, which is great. So you've got me excited, JD, about being able to get up there next year, and in the meantime, exhibit at some local Melbourne events as well. So I think that's just, yeah, fantastic, and very insightful as well to get the behind the scenes look as well. So thanks for sharing that, JD. That's wonderful.
Great to hear that you've got some exhibits coming up yourself, and can't wait to next year where we might be able to exhibit together, perhaps.
Yeah, great.
So, to our viewers, have you been to an exhibition either as a spectator or as an exhibitor? I know some of you have because I saw you. And thanks for coming up to say hello. So, what are your tips for exhibiting? If you haven't exhibited, have you thought about it now that we've had a bit of a chat? What would you like to see at an exhibit in the future on Apple vintage computing? We'd love to hear from you, so please let us know in the comments below. And again, don't forget, if you've got any topic requests for Matt and I to talk about in future episodes, please let us know down in the comments as well. Okay, we're up to recent news, and I've done it again. Last time I put some for sale stuff in news, and I'm doing it again, so bad me, sorry. But I couldn't resist. RR Auctions are at it again. They've got their vintage computer collection auction on, and I couldn't really let it go past after talking about a genuine Apple One being for sale last week at Sotheby's. Well, there's one on auction here with RR Auctions. I think it's finishing on the 22nd of August. So they've got an Apple One. They've got a whole heap of stuff. They've got a ventless Apple II. Now, you asked me about this last week, Matt, and whether I had one. So you never know.
I did.
I might be divorced after I buy it, but
that's great. It looks like an asset tag, an Apple asset tag there on the bottom right as well on the side.
Quite possibly is. So ventless, which is the special thing about the case, and it's a Rev Zero board, which is what you would expect in that case. Currently at 1,331 American dollars, again ending in August. They've also got a Lisa One, so there you go, Matt. You want your Lisa One for the collection? Cheap at the moment. So save up your bickies. Everyone buy the capacity kits from you. We'll be right. So a few things to think of from the RR auctions. Now, I have purchased from this auction before, so just be aware there's a buyer's premium, which is a percentage of the final price, and there's also shipping at their own courier, which I found to be quite expensive. So just be mindful that things may look cheap, but you need to add on those extra costs and just be aware of them as well. But I'll certainly be watching.
Did they ship to Australia, or did you have to have that shipped when you bought last time, shipped to your local US address?
Yeah, well, it was surprising. So they did give me a quote for shipping to Australia, which was huge. And so I said, could you ship to my local address in the US? It was the same cost.
What? Oh, that's crazy.
So I ended up saying, well, just send it to me in that case, and I won't pay a second courier to forward it. So that was my experience earlier this year, buying some disk drives. I think I might have spoken about this before, but so just be aware of those extra costs when you're in some of these auctions. Not just this company, a whole lot of companies do the same thing, as people probably know. There is some other actual news though. So I noticed this come through some of the news groups. So Udi, I think that's how I pronounce his name, has designed a website where you can upload photos of your collection and AI will fill in the specifications and details. And there's some examples here. So for example, the Apple II GS, I'll just click on that. Hopefully it'll come up, and there's a description and so forth of it there. So it's brand new and doesn't cost anything. So Udi's made it available for people. So if you're interested, have a look. And as you would have seen, you just sign up through Google or similar to use it. So I thought that was worth sharing. And the other news I just thought was worth mentioning, we talked about the passing of Bill a little while ago this year, and David Grealish of Before Macintosh fame, the documentary on the Lisa, he's released the extended interviews that he had with Bill. I've watched all of part one. It was great to watch. Bill's story is actually pretty much the same. If you've heard his interviews in the last couple of years, it's pretty much the same interview, but this was David's version and great to watch, and can't wait for part two to come out.
Yeah, very cool. I've got that on my to watch list.
Okay, on to upcoming events. So Technology Markets we've spoken about in the last couple of weeks. They've updated their website, as you can see there. So they've got their Reservoir event on the 3rd of August at the Darebin Community Sports Stadium. No message yet whether there's going to be a Vintage Expo as well. Sometimes there is, which is why I'm mentioning it here, but that hasn't been announced yet, so just keep watching. And the 10th of August is the next Keysborough event, but again, no news on that one in terms of retro computing. The Mac Museum, where have I heard that before? They're having an open day on the 2nd of August, Matt.
Yeah, not long to go now. Saturday week, if you're watching this in the week we're recording this. But yeah, 2nd of August. Look forward to catching people down here so we can have a good chat about all things Apple.
Fantastic. I'll certainly be aiming to be there. The WasFest for all the Apple II enthusiasts. WasFest 40 is coming up on the 26th of July. Again, it is in a private home, so just reach out to the organisers on the website and book in and get the details directly from them. And the Adelaide Retro Computer Group have got their swap meet coming up on the 26th of July in the Unley Community Centre. So if you're in Adelaide and you've got a retro computer you'd like to buy or sell, get involved. So for this week's for sale section, I was a bit short on time because of the VCF and having to pack up and unpack, etc. So I've cheated, and the overflow from last week is what we're going to talk about today. So these are all Gumtree finds, not available anywhere else. So I thought they were worth having a look at. Here we've got a clamshell iBook, so the G3 iBook. This one's in graphite by the looks of things. At $295. Now these are actually quite expensive machines. You can see that it's running and the screen looks pretty crisp. So not a bad price for one of these that's in working order. This one's from New South Wales at $295.
Cool.
We've had a few towers, Power Mac towers in the last couple of weeks, and here's another one. So this one's a Power Mac G3 blue and white. This one's for New South Wales at $350. Demonstrated there as working, so that's good. And what other details have we got? 400 megahertz, 704 RAM, etc., etc. So looks in pretty good shape. Not the cheapest one we've seen, but not bad.
Looks quite cool.
Next up, we've got the Power Mac G4. Mirror drive door is the MDD for those who aren't familiar with it, at $100. Now that sounds really cheap to me, so I wonder if it's working. Power's on, no known issues. Well, that's great news. Some marks and scratches, which is pretty usual in these sorts of cases. So $100 for a working G4 mirror drive door desktop. Great price. This is for Matt in New South Wales.
Very reasonable.
And here we've got a cinema display. They don't list the size, but I'm thinking it's the 22 or 23 inch. You could always reach out and ask them to measure it for you. Either way, it's one of the larger cinema displays with the acrylic surround for $100 from South Australia. So it's got the ADC connector, which is what they're talking about. So you need to have the right connector or adapter. Probably worth reaching out to find out if it's working or not, but at $100 it is quite cheap for a screen of this size, of this age. And Matt, I'm desperate to get you this 30-inch screen, so here's another 30-inch cinema display in the aluminium surround. We've talked about a few of these over the last week or two. This one's in New South Wales at $200. Still not a bad price. It's a lovely screen. As I mentioned last week, I've had one of these. Well, in fact, I've still got it. And they're a lovely machine. Just need to be aware of their resolution. They're not as flashy as the the Thunderbolt display that I'm using now, which is why I was happy to downgrade just a fraction on inches, but gain the resolution. But these are a lovely display if you are looking for a large screen. $200 from New South Wales.
Negotiable, not too bad.
Well, Matt, that's the end of the episode. They fly through pretty quick, don't they?
They do. I have fun having this chat with you, JD, and just seeing the insights for VCF was a special treat for me to hear about it. I'm sure for our viewers as well. So thanks again for sharing that and telling us all about it. It was great.
My pleasure. I just, it's a personal perspective, but I thought it's an interesting story to tell. Hopefully people enjoyed it, and hopefully maybe we've inspired a few people to either go and look at an exhibit or even put on an exhibit of their own at future festivals, either interstate or locally. So that's the end of this episode. We'll be back again next week. Don't forget to put your comments down below. Let us know what you think about the episode, and particularly let us know if there's anything you want us to discuss in future episodes. Always looking for great ideas. So we'll be back here next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out. So until then, take care, and we'll see you in a week.
See you later.
Thank you for joining the Macdownunder Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you again soon.